Welcome to Friday Mystery Theater, where we take a look at true crime cases and decide what questions need to be asked in order for resolution. Tonight is the story of Johnny Gosch, a paperboy from Des Moines that vanished without a trace, never to be seen or heard from again. Until he apparently was, before he disappeared into the night once more. So tonight we ask the question, why can't Johnny come home? Or did he already? This is the disappearance of Johnny Gosch. Johnny Gosch was an innocent 12-year-old boy just working his paper route when he disappeared in the early morning hours of September 5th, 1982, in West Des Moines, Iowa. His dad would typically accompany Johnny on the route, but on this day, the young boy took only his dog Gretchen with him, where the pair was seen at the paper drop picking up the day's load for delivery. This would end up being the last sighting of Johnny that could be corroborated by multiple witnesses, but Gosch was seen a few more times along his route by single witnesses. Chief among them a neighbor named Mike, who watched from his window as Johnny first talked to a stocky man in a blue two-toned Ford Fairmont with Nebraska plates, and then was followed by a second man as he headed home. Another witness named John Rossi also saw Johnny talking to a man in a blue car, but could not recall the license plate. Shortly thereafter Johnny's last sightings, his parents John and Noreen began receiving phone calls from complaining customers that they had not received their newspapers. John went out to search the neighborhood for his son and immediately found his wagon full of newspapers 2 blocks from the house. His parents then immediately contacted the West Des Moines Police Department to report him missing. Johnny was originally believed to have been a runaway by police, but they later changed their statement to suggest he was kidnapped. Police couldn't establish a motive, found very little evidence, and arrested no suspects, a fact Noreen Gosch would be highly critical of in her book, Why Johnny Can't Come Home, where she leveled accusations at police, including slow reaction times and a policy that prevented her son from being classified as a missing person until after 72 hours. Despite little help from police, those who could be in a position to help tried. The aforementioned witness John Rossi went to a hypnotist in an attempt to recall the license plate, where he was able to remember some of the numbers and that the plate was from Warren County, Iowa. Johnny was also one of the first children to ever feature on a milk carton as missing. Despite these efforts, however, as Noreen's book so aptly stated, Johnny didn't come home. But Noreen Gosch would begin to make claims, both in the book and not, that many began to see as very odd. First, when another paperboy, Eugene Martin, went missing nearly 2 years later, Noreen began to claim that she was made aware that the abduction would happen months before it actually did, by a private investigator searching for her son. She says she was told the kidnapping, quote, would take place the second weekend in August 1984, and that it would be a paperboy on the south side of Des Moines. Noreen's next claim was even stranger, where she claimed she was awakened about 2:30 a.m. one morning in March of 1997 by a knock at her door. She opened it to reveal her son, Johnny Gosch himself, now 27 years old, standing with a mysterious man. She claimed she recognized him immediately and that he opened his shirt to reveal a birthmark to her as identification. She then spoke with her son for about an hour to an hour and a half while the other man watched on, while Johnny looked to be looking at him for approval to speak. Noreen described her son's physical description at 27 to the FBI, but says Johnny did not tell her where he was living or where he was going. Noreen published Why Johnny Can't Come Home in 2000, where she explains what her understanding was of what Johnny told her that night. More weirdness continued on September 1st, 2006, where Noreen reported that she had found photos on her doorstep of children tied up, one of which was never identified, and Noreen claimed that that kid was Johnny. He had his hands and feet tied, mouth gagged, and a human brand on his shoulder. She would later state that the photos originated on a website that had child pornography. There is much debate as to whether Johnny is the unknown boy in the photo. On September 13th of that year, an anonymous letter was mailed to Des Moines police and stated that the photos were a hoax played on Noreen and were not of Johnny, but of 3 boys in Tampa, Florida, challenging each other to an escape contest in either 1979 or 1980. Nelson Zalva, who worked for the Hillsborough County, Florida Sheriff's Office in the 1970s, claims that not only was the letter true, but that he had actually investigated the photo Noreen claims to be Johnny in 1978 or 1979, before Johnny's disappearance. But Noreen still believes the identified boy to be her son. One odd wrinkle to this case comes in the form of Paul A. Bonacci, a 21-year-old who told his attorney John DeCamp that he had been abducted into a sex ring with Gosch as a teenager, and that he was actually forced to take part in Gosch's kidnapping. Bonacci not only convinced DeCamp he was telling the truth, but later met with Noreen and convinced her as well, by apparently telling her things, quote, he could only know from meeting with her son. He told her Johnny had a birthmark on his chest, scar on his tongue, and a burn scar on his lower leg. While the birthmark was well known and publicized, the scars had not been made public, and Bonacci also described a stammer Johnny had when he was upset. The FBI and local police do not share in Noreen's excitement and positive outlook on Bonacci, however, and do not believe he is a credible witness, so they have not interviewed him. Bonacci went on to accuse Republican Party activist and director of the Franklin Credit Union in Omaha, Nebraska, Lawrence E. King, Jr., of running an underage prostitution ring and victimizing him since an early age. In 1990, a county grand jury declined to charge King and called Bonacci's allegations against him, quote, a carefully crafted hoax. Bonacci would later sue King in a civil lawsuit, however, and actually win $1 million as compensatory and punitive damages when King failed to respond to it. So why can't Johnny Gosch come home? Or has he? How does a mother let her son walk out of her life again after not seeing him for 50 years, after just a quick catch-up chat? These are questions to be asked in Mystery Theater. So let us know what you think of this case in the comments below. And as always, I'll see you guys next week.